lights on? Oh, it's
Okay, so at 1:33, we're going to convene the Mendocino Council of Governments to order. And do we have anyone on the speakerphone? Will we do roll call?
Press the button.
With roll call, do we have anyone on?
No, we're up here.
Yeah.
This one up here. That one up here.
Oh, okay. Excuse me, we're fooling with the microphones here. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. All right, on the conference phone from Eureka, we have Tashana Alstrand for Caltrans for the Policy Advisory Committee. Tasha, are you there?
I am here, and I'm here with John Thurston.
Okay, so it's Tashana and John Thurston. And Director Doug Hammerstrom is excused, called in sick today. Director Steve Scalmanini.
here.
Thank you. Director Larry Stransky. Director Jim Kugel is also excused. He contacted us this morning, wasn't able to make it. Director Susan Ranachek.
Here.
Director Tom Woodhouse.
Here.
And Chair Dan Judy.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to convene as the Regional Transportation Planning Agency, and immediately recess as that, and reconvene as the Policy Advisory Committee. The first item on our agenda is public expression. Comments are welcome on non-agenda items. If you want to speak on a non-agenda item, now's your chance. Please state your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay. Would you like me to sign in here first?
You can, you don't have
At
to.
least before you go.
Okay, before I go. Okay, is this on? Okay. Hello, my name is Austin McCaffrey. I recognize some of you. I work at the Community Development Commission of Mendocino County. I'm here today, though, on behalf of our partnership called the Mendocino Energy Watch between CDC and PG&E. Specifically, we are in the midst of a strong outreach for the benchmarking services that we have available to local government buildings. This is in pursuit of some legislation that basically states all local government buildings in the state of California should pursue benchmarking services, and we have funding in pursuit of those ends. So specifically, our benchmarking services are to audit, collect data, work with people in local governments, and then have the information uploaded to an online portfolio. This information can then be used to guide future energy efficiency or energy planning for specific buildings. Again, we're doing this outreach to work with local governments and then hopefully establish a relationship with local governments that'll go beyond benchmarking, because we also offer energy efficiency retrofitting services that complement benchmarking very well. And then we also have educational, be it Title 24, solar, HVAC improvement technology. All these things are really free resources that we have available to not only local governments, but the community at large. The benchmarking is specific, though, to local governments. So, that's why we came by today. I'm going to leave my contact information along with other literature if you were interested in following up on that. Other than that, we are a resource here to help. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for your time today.
So for clarification, is your program primarily doing like energy assessments, or do you have access to funds to help finance the installation of improvements?
That's right. So for the benchmarking specifically, it's funding we have available to do the work, and there would be no cost incurred. For the further energy efficiency retrofitting, it's funding for us to do the work, and then there's a proposal with an incentive based on energy savings that will be applied to the project. Oftentimes, though, that incentive can pay for the entire project, depending on the specific measures.
So just kind of give a range of examples. Could it pay for adding insulation to a building?
Insulation, no. Lighting measures, for instance, if you had outdated incandescents, to the tune of a certain threshold, then that can buoy other things that'll be swapped out as well. still talking about lighting. So if ostensibly if you had older lighting, even like a variety of different types, then you could replace them with completely new lighting measures, and then that would be totally paid for through the incentive. with
So
our
the
program.
incentives would pay for outright the
That's
cost
right.
of?
That's right.
So what about like fluorescent lights? I know that there's, like the bigger tube fluorescent
Mm-hmm.
lights were originally installed. Now they go to a smaller tube that uses less electricity, but it changes out the ballast and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we work with local contractors, and they can prepare a proposal. Then our Energy Watch would come to the business owner, or if it's a local government building, the maintenance department, whoever it may be. We can work with them in customizing or cherry picking. All basically lighting there's a lot of fluctuation, and there's a lot of variability between specific measures. So it's kind of hard to answer your question kind of one
Okay,
for one.
so that's sort of at the one extreme of making more efficient what you already have.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other end, maybe something like putting a solar canopy over a parking lot. Is that not something you can finance?
Through our program at this point in time, no. It's
Okay.
mostly for retrofitting as opposed to, working with the contractor.
So it's about
to
eliminating waste in the energy
That's right.
consumption. Okay.
Although, and sorry if I'm going over, but to the other point with the educational classes that we have available, those are could be organized by our partnership, and then if we can get an audience from the community, then we can take feedback on if they're interested in learning about scoping solar installations, and that's something that we could host. It could be a half-day event, it could be a full-day event. We bring up professionals from the Bay Area with PG&E basically, and the entire thing would be financed.
So we're elected officials, and we don't actually do all that stuff, although Sue's actually a working department head. So, but we're all elected. But then there's, but our organizations have people, like with the counties, I would say it's primarily Chris Shaver in the CO's office, who's the nuts and bolts in terms of the infrastructure of the county buildings. City of Willits, Larry, who would you guys have would be your contact person?
Would be Public Works.
And that person is?
What?
It's not Dave Madrigal, I know that.
No. I would say Adrian would be the one that you would
Okay,
talk
so
to.
maybe contact the city manager.
She's the city manager.
And then with City of Ukiah, Steve, who would that be?
Sorry.
Oh, that's right.
Oh.
Okay, so this is a program funded through PG&E.
That's right. Although for benchmarking, I'm not sure if you would be disqualified for benchmarking because there's an initiative for all local government buildings. Although the retrofitting projects, you need to be a PG&E customer.
Okay. It would
Although
probably,
for educational classes, those also would be for the entire county.
okay. So
Okay.
it'd probably be Tim Erickson, the Director of Public Works. And, but Mel Grandy is the Director of the electric utility. He's kind of the person to keep informed.
And Fort Bragg, Tom Varga is the Public Works Director, and I think he's probably the primary person to contact there.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'll absolutely follow up with those folks. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Super, thanks.
Do we have any other public comments on non-agenda items? Well, hey, Dusty, you came down here from Willits. Do you have anything to say? Yeah. Any comments on anything on?
No, I was going to talk to the gentleman after you.
Okay, great. Okay, then I guess we don't have any item. We do not have any items for the regular calendar, so I guess we'll go straight to the consent calendar.
Yes, and it looks like we need to pull an item off of consent. I'm going to hand this item over to Loretta.
Thank you. This regards agenda item number 5. I handed out a revised staff report with information that came up after your packets were mailed. I have new information on the staff report. This is for the First Amendment to the fiscal year 16-17 overall work program. It's a routine amendment that's making some changes and adjustments to the carryover amounts. The final work program had included estimated carryover, and this is actually making those amounts match the actual claims that were paid. However, I found out from Caltrans after this staff report was done that they will not approve us including the state RPA, that's Rural Planning Assistance carryover, until the year-end numbers are certified, and that's not yet complete. So I need to remove the RPA carryover from 2 work elements pending that certification. So the revised staff report that I gave you, I highlighted the change in yellow for easy reference, and the change involves work element 3 and 6. In the case of work element 3, it's our active transportation plan that is being carried over to complete the plan. We had put in the RPA carryover, but we're going to take it out as instructed by Caltrans, and we're recommending that some available LTF carryover be programmed just to cover the gap. It already has 500 in LTF carryover, but we're recommending that 15,000 in available carryover be programmed to continue the work until we can put in the RPA. And then the other change is work element 6. The County Department of Transportation has some state RPA carryover in their special studies work element, but that is not a problem because in the new work program they have new RPA funding, so that will not impact their work. And the only other change on the staff report is I made a clarification regarding the carryover funds of work element 5. And in summary, the revisions proposed will increase the work program substantially by about $179,000, and that's mainly due to the large carryover amount on the state grant, the ATP non-infrastructure grant. Instead of carrying over $880,000, we're carrying over close to $1 million on that, or just over $1 million. So, as I said, it's a routine amendment. It's programming carryover funds. It did not go to the TAC because there was no July TAC meeting, and the August TAC meeting will occur next week. So we don't expect any controversy with it, as it's not programming any new funds. It's only reprogramming existing funds. And I think that's it, and I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Okay, not seeing any questions. So it looks like what you're looking for is a motion to approve the consent calendar with
Well, I
this
believe we
version-
need a separate motion since we pulled it off of
Okay.
consent.
Well, we haven't voted on the consent either, though.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar except for item 5, Loretta? Was that the one you pulled?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Any comments on the motion? Not seeing any.
Everything has to be roll call
Roll call.
today
Yeah.
because of the teleconference. Okay, are we ready? All right, so on consent, accepting item 5. Director Alstron on the teleconference phone?
Yes.
All right, Director Scalmanini?
Aye.
Director Stransky? Director Ranachek?
Yes.
Director Woodhouse?
Yes.
Chair Dirty?
Yes.
Thank you.
So Sue, was that for all the items except 5, or was that for 5?
I will make a motion to accept the revised item number 5 on the consent
And
calendar.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any comments on the motion? Not seeing any. Let's do the roll call.
Director Alstrand?
Yes.
Director Scalmanini?
Aye.
Director Stransky? Director Ranachek?
Yes.
Director Woodhouse?
Yes.
Chair Dirty?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to recess as the Policy Advisory Committee and reconvene as the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. Do we have a motion to ratify our previous actions?
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second that motion.
Do we need to do this by the phone or roll call also?
I'm afraid this will be the last one. All right, Director Scalmanini?
Aye. Aye.
Stransky?
Yes.
Ranachek?
Yes.
Woodhouse?
Yes.
And Dirty?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to reports. Informational reports, Mendocino Transit Authority. I don't see any particular reports. I did ride the bus over here today. It was an adventure.
Do you have anything for Nancy or Ray?
Oh, I didn't have any hearing. I'll give you a brief update. I went to the NCRA meeting last week in Novato, and a couple items of interest. the NCRA board approved about 3 items regarding their property management association with, or their agreement with Gillen, Inc. They approved a 2-year extension to the current agreement with Gillen to manage the Ukiah Depot property and what's going on there with the sale and the development of those parcels. They approved an exemption from competitive bidding to allow a listing agreement solely with Gillen. And then thirdly, the listing agreement itself, there was a little bit of discussion and disagreement on whether or not to approve the listing agreement with Gillen at this meeting because some property owners along Mason Street property, Coldwell Banker and a few other owners there, wanted an opportunity to present their own offer on the property, and they thought there might be some difficulty with Gillen having an exclusive listing agreement, and Gillen indicated that they may be also presenting an offer. So there was some discussion of a potential conflict and some discussion of making sure all the issues were out in the open. So several members of the public spoke in support of having the NCRA board delay the vote on the listing agreement for 1 month. I spoke in support of the need for them to delay the vote to look at all the issues, and they finally did approve the listing agreement on a 6-3 vote with the 3 Mendocino County members, John McCowan and Hal Wagonette, and then Holly Madrigal, who's not a county member, she's a city representative on the board. So those 3 voted no. They wanted it delayed a month to look at the issues, but it did pass on 6-3, so that was an item of interest. And then the only other thing I'll mention from that meeting is that, 2 more things. The operator for the NWP said that they are still looking for funding to extend the railroad north, and that they actually have interest from Mendocino Forest Products. They're looking for a location to ship out of with some transloading. So that's an issue that they're looking for. And then it was announced that a Caltrans planning grant has been awarded for $276,000 to look at an east-west railroad from somewhere in Humboldt County over to, I believe, near Reading. So that grant was approved to do a feasibility study there. That's all.
I believe it was Red Bluff.
Okay.
Okay, well, we have your summary of meetings. Are there any highlights you want to?
Now, I just put that in there so you can tell we're doing things. It's not all summer vacation.
Yeah.
Nothing in particular to point out, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and then any updates on the Willits Bypass?
You have the written report from the project manager, Mauricio Serrano, that he sends us once a month. Most of you do know that the date has been set for the opening of the bypass, November 3rd, and my understanding is that they'll have some type of ceremony at 11 a.m. on that date. But most everything is done. They did more paving just recently, and they're doing striping and finalization. Then as we become closer, they'll start doing the transitions.
Will there be a soft opening before then, or will that be the day it opens?
That'll be the day it opens.
Okay.
I think they're going to have some kind of a opening ceremony on the viaduct, I believe, portion. And then I think it's going to be open for certain things, like in Willits. I think they want to do a little bicycle run in the morning, but it's going to be open for traffic by that afternoon.
So
is my understanding.
are you saying that the bike pedestrian run would be the morning of November 3rd?
I believe so.
Okay.
Maybe somebody in Willits would know more about it, but that's what I had heard, but I can't confirm any of that. But that's my understanding. We'll have the ceremony at 11 a.m. and probably about an hour or so, and then by that afternoon it should be open. So we're going to torture the public one more big holiday weekend.
We did have a question at the last meeting about whether herbicides had been used on the mitigation properties, and the answer came back by email from the project manager, and we sent that around. I just want to make sure you all had heard that no herbicides were used, and that in the next contract, they will not be allowed. Am I right?
I believe
That's-
so.
Yeah, in
It's been
any
a while
case-
since I read it.
In your report in the packet here, they mention mechanical methods for all the plant removal. So that was the answer that we had back. Our understanding is no herbicides were used or will be used.
Okay.
That's all I have to report.
On that, do you have anything you want to add on any of these other?
Let me see, the active transportation program, that was a written report, nothing to add. I'll ask if Janet would like to say anything regarding number 3 and 4.
On the
The
reports?
grant proposal for the California Energy Commission, charge point.
Oh, sure, I can mention probably a couple of things. Well, you have my staff report. ChargePoint did submit a grant application by the due date in partnership with MCOG, and they had a couple of subcontractors as well, and some other partners doing other things, Cal Poly doing some analysis and education. Let's see, and the grant farm who wrote the proposal with them is doing the administration. We hope to get that grant. Just a moment here, I'm looking at the anticipated notice of proposed awards is expected to be posted in August, so any time now we should hear about that, about the awards on that solicitation. And the Energy Commission would approve awards at their business meeting in October. So it looks like a good project. Probably still some details to work out. They did settle on 5 sites for the DC fast chargers in this corridor that's northern Sonoma on up through Mendocino County. And those are in Leggett, Laytonville, Willits, Cloverdale, and Healdsburg. And of course, those will also have the level 2, the standard chargers also on all those sites. So there should be at least 3 plugs for vehicles available at every site or more. Looks like they're going to put 2 level 2 chargers in Willits. And one of the other sites, I'm forgetting which one now. So there are 7 fast chargers going in if this is approved. So we hope to get this grant. Any other questions on that one?
Not seeing any.
Okay. And moving on, number 4, verbal report on this one. National Drive Electric Week is coming around again, September 10th through the 18th. Last year, I put on a little event with some help from Down Associates in the city of Ukiah and the National Drive Electric Week people as an organization, nonprofit. And this year, the Ukiah Main Street program is putting on a car show. And I received a press release on that on August 3rd. So my understanding is they're taking on the show that the Early Iron Club used to do. I bet you know all about this, Director
No, I know that
Scalmanini.
much. So,
Okay.
yeah, they're taking on that.
Yes, that's been going for a long time, 25 years or something. So these are the classic vintage cars, right?
Yeah.
And so they're doing that, and they're also seeking electric cars and their owners to participate in a display of any electric cars and plug-in hybrids for this show. They're calling it the End of Summer Show and Shine Classic and Custom Car Show. And that is going to be on Saturday, September 17th. And there's a entry form available. So we've got that if anybody wants one of these. And I'm bringing my electric car, so I'm sure there'll be a lot interesting. There'll be at least a couple of Teslas there.
Is your mic still on?
You know, I don't know. It's
Now
on
it's
again
on.
now. Okay.
It's working now.
It looks like we lost it for a second. I don't know what I should repeat. We do have the entry forms. I have some where you can get them from the Ukiah Main Street program. They're seeking electric cars. I'm bringing my electric car, and there should be a couple of Teslas and some other vehicles at that show. So it sounds like a lot of fun, and hope you'll support that.
Question for
Come
you on
visit.
that.
Yes.
Is there a way to contact those that attended the meeting whenever it was, a year ago or so, at the Veterans Building, and those people attended, those are all electric car owners or drivers? Is there a way to?
The show that we did last
let them
year?
know about the show, invite them? Since
I've
some are
got-
in the organization, we assume they know who they are.
I've got some contact
Some of
info.
them,
Yeah, I have probably most of them. If
Probably a
there's-
partial list, anyway.
Yeah,
so-
and I tried to, forwarded on this email that I got so that all the EV owners that I'm aware of would
Oh,
know about it,
That's
so.
what I was getting at. Thank you.
Yeah, doing our best to spread the word on
Yeah.
that, get some attendance in, yeah. Okay. Is that enough on that one? And the last one I've got is the proposal to the U.S. Department of Energy to form a Northern California Clean Cities Coalition. And this is coming out of the, well, you have my written staff report here, but just for anybody listening, this is coming out of the, it's a result of the planning grant that we participated in for the last year and a half or so, to come up with an alternative transportation fuels readiness plan for 5 Northwest California counties. And so that would be, hold on, I'm looking for which ones. They are Mendocino County, Humboldt, Del Norte, Trinity, and Siskiyou, I believe, were the ones on that project. And so this is, oh, here we go. That's exactly right. Just trying to find my notes here. So the plan, I haven't seen the final plan yet, but that should be about wrapped up by now by Redwood Coast Energy Authority, who's in charge of that, administering that grant. And the consensus of the participants was to try and keep this momentum going and keep the effort up and continue on to try to encourage more use of alternative fuels. And so we agreed to just at least participate in the proposal, and then we can let you know if that goes anywhere and whether you want us to still keep working on it. The proposal is pretty huge. It's about, what, 60 or so pages. It's got a lot of the results from the plan sort of recapped in here. There's a lot of data and a lot of facts and figures and just talking about ways that we can encourage those uses with incentives, what kind of barriers there are, what sort of ways we can address those barriers, workforce training, training for first responders, mechanics, and vocational programs, and any other kinds of strategic ways that can help that effort. So it's for a 3-year program initially. So we've had a couple of meetings on this with the other core members of this group, and I've been participating in those meetings. There's another one coming up next Monday. And hopefully we'll see this get submitted, and the idea is that the Department of Energy, who's had this Clean Cities program for a long time, over 20 years I think, can bring to it some little bit of funding support for a coordinator position, and also some technical assistance and resources. So that's why you want to get together and form a coalition like this, is you can get some support, and these have been going on all around the country. So that would be a leg up if we could get that going. And so MCOG here is not intending to be a primary player on orchestrating that. Siskiyou County Economic Development Council is a nonprofit up there in Siskiyou County, and they've offered to be a co-coordinator for the inland area, and for the coastal area, the Redwood Coast Energy Authority has offered to be the lead on that as well. So 2 lead agencies are stepping up to do this work and to find a coordinator and do the legwork on that. So I think on our part, it's not going to be a whole lot of time spent on that. So. But we're glad to be a participant, and I'll keep you informed on that. Any questions about it?
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to item number 6, regarding these last 3 items that Janet just reported on, between last Thursday and right now, I just spent 16 hours going through the brand new Regional Transportation Plan guidelines. My last comment back to them, they're due today, was last time I did this is 45 pages. Now it's 180 something. But which reminds me that the last one that we actually did was in 2010, and at that time that was the first regional transportation plan cycle after we were required to somehow address greenhouse gas emissions pursuant to AB 32, and it included for the first time a whole bunch of policies regarding greenhouse gas emissions and those type of things. And I was able at the time to quantify a whole bunch of things that we naturally have been doing without even thinking about it over the years, and saying, hey, we're going to continue on with some of these things. And so even though we haven't had explicit direction from the board to somehow involve ourselves in these, we're doing it, and I see nodding heads every time we're doing it, but we are compelled to comply as best we can as a rural area, even though we don't have any kind of specific quotas we have to meet. We're expected to do our part, and I look at it, these are the kind of things that we're doing, and I'll be proud to report when we update the Regional Transportation Plan a whole range of things we've been involved with in the last 6 years. Just wanted to give you that comment. So, and I suppose when we bring these things after spending some minimal time of deciding whether we can take it on or whatever, and then you'll give us the direction if you want us to halt or pursue. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. And I think just on this issue of electric vehicles, I mean, I certainly notice more and more electric vehicles on the road. And part of it, I think, is also because with fuel prices going up and then down, I mean, the manufacturers are making them. And yet when the price of fuel drops down again, it looks like the price of used electric vehicles drops down quite a bit. But we have a lot of people in Mendocino County who don't have a lot of don't have a high income. And so, a $10,000 slightly used Nissan Leaf looks really attractive. And so I just think we're going to continue to see more and more electric vehicles on the road.
Yeah, and that's consistent with some of the findings out of this readiness plan, at least for Mendocino County. The idea was that, we'd find solutions that are appropriate to each of those counties individually. And here in Mendocino County, to reach the low carbon standards we're trying to reach by a certain time period, electric cars can actually do most of that. If we can make a switch to a lot of electric vehicles, that's going to meet that mandate in a big way, along with a couple of other biofuels and things like that, and renewable diesel. We've looked at a lot of fuel types in here, but electrics would be like the easiest, fastest path to get there initially.
Okay, we're ready to go to our next meeting, September 7th.
Okay.
Item number 6.
Yeah.
Next meeting, there is no meeting. It's our fall tour. We didn't intend to have an actual meeting, even though it's listed as such. We have made arrangements with Caltrans to have a tour of the bypass on that date, and I think it's likely to be a couple hours. We don't have things finalized yet with the city of Willits, but we would expect it, we would have lunch provided somewhere in city, and then there's an opportunity then, even though I haven't contacted the city manager yet, to then talk about some of the things that the city is doing post-bypass with planning for Main Street after relinquishment, and there could be an opportunity to view some of those things, even though it would be nothing more than a visualization about what's going to happen here. So it's going to be a day focused on Willits, and we will have our regular meeting then the following first Monday of October.
So you're saying the meeting would strictly be a tour and?
It's strictly
Okay.
a tour, and it's not our standard meeting date, and we are expecting that there shouldn't be any business that has to be done at that time, and we can just concentrate on the Caltrans tour and the city of Willits.
What time would that be? Would you?
I think we have it arranged to meet at the site at 10 a.m. to start the Caltrans tour of the bypass.
I think we'll have a full day of it without having the business meeting part. Looks like the morning would be taken up with the bypass tour. We can gather for lunch. My thought was, usually we like to invite the community to, meet with us in some way. And so we could have lunch and invite people to come, and we can mingle and have any informal talks that way.
And I've contacted our new MTA general manager and told her it was her obligation to bring the bus for us. And I said, this is those other duties as assigned you have, they didn't tell you about when you got hired here, but the MTA will be providing the transportation.
It's traditional now, yeah. And then, of course, in the afternoon, we'd like to look at the downtown streets and the planning that's gone on with that, if somebody could lead that. So that should take up most of the day.
I suspect it will take up 4 hours of the day, at least. That's all I have on that, Mr. Chairman.
So I think we'll have to notice that meeting since we'll have a quorum there. So we can put out an itinerary and say where the board's going to be. Although there won't be any actions, any business actions.
But it will be an opportunity for some of the public to show up and tell you what they think.
Any miscellaneous reports?
Well, one thing I'd like to mention is that we do have an administrative assistant position open. So if anybody knows of a qualified person, have them contact us, Dow & Associates. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Well, you have a comment on that?
No. I was going to go to planning staff.
I was going to add something under miscellaneous to draw attention to what's in your information packet. There are a couple things I want to talk about in there. Item number 2 is a letter of support I wrote for McCarricker Park for their application, which would be a significant step towards completion of a trail on the coast. They applied for an active transportation program grant, the ones that were due in June. Also, item number 3 is a letter from the Hopland Municipal Advisory Council that regarding one of the things that came out of our study in Hopland regarding a significant ADA problem. And this was the first step towards working with Caltrans to get that rectified. And I did help them with the language in that letter. And the last one was the support for the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities proposal. That's the one that we viewed over on Brush Street. We spent some time looking at it, and Mike Pallison talked about what's being planned there. They did get that application in on time, and that's a support letter that I wrote for them. And seems like October is a big month. Everybody's going to hear about the success of a number of these things, not only the energy grant, but also the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities Program. That's a $24 million project, and I think it was a great proposal, and hopefully that will be successful. We'll probably get some kind of indication from staff regarding recommendation for the active transportation program proposals from our county also in October. So I just want to point out these things that are in here in case you haven't had time to read them. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So Loretta, do you have anything from the planning staff report? Okay. And any director reports?
Couple of comments I might make. One being on the serious side, but and one that escaped me for the moment. Just for what it's worth, the current results of Friday's deadline for candidates for seats on the Ukiah City Council, for which my seat is up, only had the 2 incumbents apply. So it's a polite way of saying you might be stuck with me for 4 more years, so I just wanted to give you a fair warning. And the other, let me take a minute to explain something that it might be new. I don't think it's come up here before. You mentioned, Phil, I mean, we're here obviously for transportation issues. Then you said a magic term a few minutes ago, greenhouse gases. And so I'll like to explain something unless you'd rather not. But I am the kind of the lone holdout on the Ukiah City Council on a project called the Costco project. And it has to do with transportation issues, actually, or greenhouse gases from transportation issues. The characterization of the greenhouse gas issue, I think, is not very good in the EIR for this, but that might be secondary. The technical issue is that, you know, the mitigations for the additional greenhouse gases from people driving relatively long distances to get to a Costco, what I prefer to refer to as a rural Costco. So people are driving long distances, as opposed to a metropolitan Costco. People aren't driving as far. So here, you know, the market for Costco is going to be up to, you know, Laytonville and Leggett and off to the coast and over in Lake County, et cetera, et cetera. So people are driving long distances with the commensurate greenhouse gases for that. And so the issue comes up, well, what are the mitigations for that? And the city, the city's mitigations for that, I've always, I made a bit of fun of them, frankly. And for example, first of all, the greenhouse gas issue is considered not significant, despite the era of global warming we live in and all that. But because one development is only a tiny piece of a huge problem, for this project is considered not significant. Therefore, there are things you don't have to do. So the developer was given a choice to do 3 of 5 things. And again, I'm the lone holdout on whether or not those 3 things are adequate. One of the 3 that they've chosen is a real ringer. The city is, or they've committed to do one of the 5 choices, which is to use electric gardening tools for the project to mitigate greenhouse gases for these hundreds of cars, you know, coming to Costco from whatever distance they might be. And that's serious. This is in writing in the documentation. There's another one about as ridiculous. It's and the other one is electric warehouse equipment, which means essentially electric forklifts to run the stuff in. I'm the guy on the city council. This is going back 2.5 years now, when the actual final decision was on the city council. I was the lone vote against it for these kinds of reasons. They The other mitigation is that you're going to use electric warehouse equipment or electric forklifts. I'm the one that asks them how many Costco's in this country don't use electric forklifts and use, and blow greenhouse gases and exhaust in the area where they're bringing the food in and out and this kind of thing, And the answer from the guy from Costco was, well, maybe a few. Well, I still owe a phone call to Costco about that, but nonetheless. So, since you mentioned greenhouse gases and transportation issues is why we're here, I thought I'd mention that. I am in touch with people at the State Air Resources Board about, well, what can we do about this, and what does the Air Resources Board want to do about it? What do they care about a situation like this? I mean, I claim simply that, well, this is obviously going to increase greenhouse gases if we don't do something more significant. And only let me add that one of the 5 choices was to solarize the building, and they've steadfastly refused, and staff at the city has not demanded it, has not insisted on it. And that is the one mitigation which would be meaningful to me. The 550,000 square feet of solar panels on the roof would be, the most significant thing I think that is practical to ask for, but that hasn't been required. Having said that, I should mention that only after that vote a few years ago did I realize that's probably not the thing to do, and that's because you may know Ukiah is in a very clean electricity market because we're our own utility, and the percent of quote-unquote dirty electricity we use, which is oil-powered or coal-powered and such, is only about, it varies depending upon how much hydropower is available each year. Right now it's about 50%, but it's usually around the 20% range, 20-25%, as opposed to state average, which is somewhere up around 80% range. The point being that in order to mitigate the maximum number of greenhouse gases for a given roof size, you should put the roof or put the solar panels in a dirty electricity market, not a clean electricity market. So the appropriate mitigation for a situation like this for Costco is to solarize another Costco elsewhere in the state, or 150,000 square feet of somebody else's roof, but the same equivalent. By the way, if you go to Costco's catalog online, you can buy turnkey solar photovoltaic systems for your roof. That's another part of this deal I made fun of. They sell the darn things, but they won't put one on their own roof. So, and when I talk to the state, the air resources person, I've talked to an attorney there, an EIR attorney there, they do have some people on staff that are attorneys for the CEQA and the environmental issues. It was a new idea, like a new light bulb turned on when I suggested when I told them I thought the right thing to do was to put this kind of mitigation in a dirty electricity market. It's like, oh, that was new. So that's probably all I should add. I am working on that for what it's worth with people at the state who, in theory, should care about this. But the state tends to be looking at pushing on what's called point sources of greenhouse gases. So, refineries and whatever, big industrial plants. They don't particularly seem interested in this, and I might give it up if they don't seem interested, But for what it's worth, talking about greenhouse gases and transportation, I am working on this issue as the lone guy. The attitude around the city, you might imagine, is, I just want a Costco. It's been in the works for years, decades. It's been talked about, and it is close to fruition. Technically, what happened is that there was a lawsuit filed about it a little over 2 years ago. It took a couple of years to get through the system, get through the initial decision, and then a appeal hearing in that process. That occurred a few months ago, and the city is required to redo part of the EIR. There was a energy analysis that was done as a supplement to the EIR. It had to do with timing. It became a requirement after the process had begun, and anyway, it had to be done, so it was done as a supplement. The appeals judge said the supplement had to be part of the body of the document, and the document had to be redone to suit that.
So what's the time frame for that?
It is the coming months. It may be underway already. I don't actually know. It reminds me, I thought last week.
So in a couple months, it'll be approved, basically?
I assume it'll be approved in the coming months, somewhere early next year, you know, I can imagine 3-4 months, something like that.
And I've heard
for
that
this to be
Costco
done.
would build it like in 30 days, that they're really quick at constructing.
Well, it would be fast, that's faster than I would think, but still, it would be fast.
Okay, Larry?
What about the stacking lanes for getting in there? Getting off the freeway?
Oh,
Talking
actually,
about
that's
emission
that's
stuff.
the other point, yes. The upgrades to the US 101 intersection for Talmadge Road are part of the deal, and they will be done, and Costco will not open without them. That is a requirement, but Costco has already said very clearly, you know, they don't want to open until they're done, and that'll take a year. So who knows on that one, although the city has the ball. This is part of the mitigation, this is the traffic mitigation for this project. And, but that is, the planning for that has been underway for a while. The designs are approved. I don't actually know where that is right now, but it will be done. There's no reason it won't be. Nothing in the way of that. But I thought I should give you an update on the traffic-related, transportation.
So
related.
someday there may be a Costco in Fresno in your name?
Someone would probably want to put my name up there, you know, with some other appropriate signage or something.
Do you know if the road out there in front of Walmart and Costco, will that all be repaved? Because it's in really bad shape.
It's in bad shape, but there's other parts of the city in worse shape, so I do not know the answer to that. And you know about the, you know, the
About the
November
sales tax,
election,
yeah.
the sales tax deals. We'll see what happens with that.
I can't believe the cars that are gonna be on the freeway.
The additional cars for this, yeah. It'll be.
They're gonna have to redo that whole area. I mean, our people are gonna be stacked up to Gobi, waiting to get in there.
Well, Phil, have you seen any traffic studies? It seems to be, it's almost like counterintuitive the way it's striped right now, whereas if you're going westbound on Talmadge or whatever that, on
Talmadge Road.
on Talmadge, but you're going westbound, they have 2 lanes dedicated, which later merge into one, going west, and you see very few cars there, and you see almost all the cars stacked into the single
Right.
left turn lane, and it seems like instead they should have 2 lanes that are turn lane into to go south, and there should just be the 1 lane going west.
Yeah, agree. And I think that's the way it's gonna turn out.
And that's just paint.
No, you have to make some adjustments to the intersection once they make that left turn, you have to move that median back and widen that out a little bit to make it all work. But that's the plan as far as I know.
But I don't really see the value of having the 2 lanes westbound, which then immediately merge into 1 lane anyway, because there's very few cars even in those 2, the 2 lanes.
Well, there are some people coming southbound and turning westbound from the opposite side of the intersection. They're coming out residential area that turn right in there, and it's kind of a merge for them to move into
I
that
see.
westbound.
Farther west.
Yeah.
Mhm. On a jurisdictional point, I don't know if you all see and review the plans for the upgrades to the intersection Talmadge Road and all.
Well, let me tell you what happened. This thing started so long ago that I couldn't multitask between the bypass and that one. And since that is a Caltrans interchange, I went to one of the first meetings and said, look, here is what came out of our 2005 TGAKM report regarding the intersections, and here's the long-term plan for Talmadge Road that we spent money on developing, and all we care about is that in the end, whatever you do, we make sure that it's going to be able to handle the traffic that's envisioned for the next 20 years. And I have since been, involved with Caltrans on a few occasions, and I kind of figured, well, it's their interchange. They're not going to allow anything that's going to permanently disrupt the function of that interchange or the through movement. So I kind of stayed out of it because of that. I had other things that were more pressing at the time, and I've been just casually involved in it since then. But there was no mandate that we reviewed or anything like that.
Yeah. So I guess my point being, if Larry turns out to be right, the egg will be on the face of Caltrans in the city, if you kaya.
Yeah.
And I hope it works out,
Okay, any
Um,
other director reports?
I will mention one other thing. Is it anywhere on your radar about that there is a request to rezone the State Street frontage of the Masonite plant site to be commercial? And that would affect traffic and the on-ramp?
Yeah, I was aware, given the recent development that's happened there, that I'm not sure I knew there was a rezone, but I knew it would be coming. And that's, I went out and we looked at that in our field review real briefly about, hey, ideally we do something, with the access, but we have, there is a mitigation for that, and hopefully we'll find some funding for it in the future to provide, to make it easier for the northbound on-ramp to function more safely. And so there was a mitigation plan. When we'll have the money to ever do that, I don't know. But that should be done sometime in the future. And there was a relatively low cost. It was something that wouldn't break the bank. It's not in tens of millions of dollars. So that is something that Caltrans looked at for us, 5 years ago or something. So I recall a $3.5 million range then. So it's probably $7 million now.
All right, thank you. I got a little long-winded there, but.
So
I
any
should
other
give you an
director
update.
reports? Well, I would note that next time any of you guys drive over Highway 20 to the coast, you'll notice that there are now 7 additional paved turnouts. And some of the comments I've heard, all positive, were also they appreciate the fact that Caltrans installed at least a couple signs that say slow vehicles must turn out. And just as someone who drives it all the time, basically, if it's a commercial truck driver, they almost always pull out, especially the local truck drivers. It's occasionally you see a driver that's probably coming over for the first time and wondering what they got themselves into driving over. But it's, other than that, most people will take the turnouts if they see 2 or 3 people behind them.
My comment to that is that flatlanders don't know they're going slow. They don't think they can go any faster than 30.
But anyway, I think they are very much appreciated. So no other director reports? I don't think we have any CALCOG update reports, do we?
I just have last month went to the CALCOG directors meeting, and there's everybody is still waiting for the legislature to act regarding transportation funding, and there is a new bill. I understand it's kind of that both Fraser and Beal, or he pronounces it Bill, have been working on, and I haven't heard much of it since then. So they haven't disbanded. They're still trying to work on a state funding package.
And I did want to mention for the county roads, although we did not put a half-cent sales tax on the ballot that we'd been working on for 2 years with MCOG, because as you know, there was an initiative to put a half-cent sales tax that came out of in the last 7-8 months. But we do have on the ballot, the county did put on the ballot a cannabis tax system, and it could potentially generate significantly more than a sales tax. And the board of supervisors has placed on the ballot a companion advisory measure like the City of Ukiah's advisory measure, and where we're asking, would the voters like to see a majority of the funds spent on 4 areas, one of which is county roads. It's my understanding, I'm mentioning this in part because it's my understanding that like the previous cannabis ballot measures that have been on the ballot here in Mendocino County, as a Fort Bragg voter, as a Ukiah voter, as a Willits voter, we all vote on it, even though this ordinance, like the others, are only in effect in the unincorporated county, because that's just sort of the way the ballot measure works. So I'm just pointing this out because you may talk to constituents who go, I guess I'm voting on this, but is this, and does it affect the city?
Mm-hmm.
So no, the ordinance will not affect tax rate within the county of, within the city of Willits, Ukiah, or Fort Bragg. But yes, my understanding is the voters in those cities will be voting on it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And, so anyway, if you get that, ask that question, you know, your own city could choose to have its own tax if you want to. And the city would then keep that money.
Understand. The news, the bigger news I just heard is about you guys aren't going to have the half cent?
That's what I just said. So, but instead, we have a cannabis tax, which could potentially generate significantly more money than the half cent.
Well, okay, but that's a surprise. I hadn't heard about the half cent didn't go, you didn't get that on the ballot.
Well,
I'm about to go
Must
sign
be,
the one for Ukiah, you know, just after this meeting, but
yeah,
I didn't know that didn't happen.
yeah.
Okay.
So even though the sales tax measure went up in smoke, we may benefit from some smoke.
So, so the sheriff's proposal will be on the ballot for
Yeah,
half cent?
Yeah.
And the city will be voting on that also. The cities will be
Mhm.
voting on that, I assume.
That would be in effect in the cities and the county.
In the cities and the county, okay. So the city of Ukiah will be voting on 2 half-cent
Yeah.
bills, okay? The only place in
Yep.
the county, I guess.
Well, although Fort Bragg already has,
Well, you have, okay,
we have a
yes, right.
CD Star recreation sales tax.
Yes, okay.
And we have the half-cent sales tax as well.
And you have it up there, okay. So we'll be voting on
So
2.
between your public safety sales tax and your road sales tax, Ukiah would equal Fort Bragg's sales tax. Willits and Point Arena have a half cent approved, but not 2 half cents approved. So Ukiah and Fort Bragg will have the highest sales tax in the county.
Okay, and then the cities, well, city of Ukiah will also be voting on a half-cent for the sheriff's proposal for this.
Yeah.
That's countywide.
It'll be countywide, yeah.
Countywide vote.
And it's limited to 5 years.
Yeah, okay. And then the marijuana tax would apply, but they'll also be voting on with the choices.
But I'm just
only-
pointing out, I'm saying the county's cannabis tax only affects businesses outside of
Yes,
city limits.
Okay. I think I have that.
But you might get asked that question. Okay, all right, well, thanks. I think we're done. Ready to adjourn? 2:35?
Stretch that out well.
It's a record. I have a Highway 20 story if anybody wants to hear it after we're done.
All right.